Wytlabs, an e-commerce marketing agency. Today's guest is Mallorie. Mallorie, feel free to introduce yourself and let viewers know a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure. So, hi, everyone. My name is Mallorie Dunn. I am the owner and designer of a company called Smart Glamour. We launched in February of 2014. So we just celebrated 10 years of the company. For the first 9 years, we were a customizable, inclusive clothing line where we created full collections, direct to consumer. We did 2 inclusive runway shows a year, ran as a very standard clothing brand. And then since then, we have slightly pivoted to focus more on education. I'm also a professor at the Fashion Institute of Technology and at Parsons here in New York City. And so my website offers classes, live virtual classes, also pre-recorded classes. And then in addition, still offering custom one-off pieces of clothing for people.
Awesome. Well, congrats on the 10 years. And what inspired you to create the brand?
Well, I've always been very interested in fashion ever since I was really young. And didn't realize that was really a job until I got to high school. My high school had a fashion design program. I was like, oh, wow, that's a thing. Jumped into that. Then went to FIT as an undergraduate student almost 20 years ago now. And kind of unfortunately learned a lot of the realities of the fashion industry, how it can be very pretentious, very exclusionary, not super welcoming or kind. And so that kind of turned me off to it. And after getting my associates there, I transferred, got my bachelor of the fine arts from Pratt Institute, focused in art and design education. And that trajectory kind of leads you towards being a public school art teacher, which is not what I wanted to be. So I went back to fashion, and I worked in the corporate fashion space for a few years. Started as an assistant designer, got promoted to being an associate designer, did some technical design work, and kind of just proved myself right that I don't really love the way that the mainstream fashion industry runs itself. And so left that corporate environment and was doing freelance work. And during that time of freelance work, had the kind of emotional energy and space to come up with my company. So from day one, it was always an inclusive, customizable, ethically made company that was very message driven. So we were one of the first businesses to be using inclusive models and actually have them be truly inclusive, really look like everyone, not just, putting one slightly plus size person next to a group of a bunch of straight size people and saying that's inclusion. And then through lots of content online about the reality of the fashion industry, how your clothes are made, what size charts are even based off of, kind of removing the size around stigma. We just did a lot of work and a lot of content around all of those topics to really impact our customers' experience of the fashion industry in a positive way.
Awesome. Well, speaking of your customers, who is your ideal target audience?
Well, if that's kind of a hard question because it's anyone, right? So I know that in the fashion industry specifically, we are kind of taught to come up with this super hyper specific customer who lives in a certain area of the world and has this much amount of money and is this size person and cares about these things, right? But I think what that does is it kind of erases the realities of human beings and how completely diverse and different we can be from one another. And it kind of targets you down into a specific kind of product that only fits a specific kind of person. And so Smart Glamour was truly and is truly a company that is for anyone, regardless of your size, your height, your ability, your gender, etc. And I mean, now that we've pivoted to focus a little bit more on education, I suppose the customer profile has narrowed a bit because you have to be someone that's interested in learning more about the fashion industry, either from a hands-on design and making experience or from just becoming more well-versed in how the industry runs itself whether that's because you want to become a more informed consumer, or maybe you want to join the fashion industry. But when we're talking about the custom one-off pieces I still make for people, again, it truly is for anyone. It tends to lean towards people who have felt left out and marginalized elsewhere, right? And so that's why they're looking for these kind of services, is because they have felt like the mainstream doesn't care about them. So that does sometimes lead to a specific kind of person, but that's to be said, is that it's not always that. There's also people who are represented and could shop from mainstream fashion, but they are choosing not to because they want to support a small business who cares about other people.
Makes total sense. What makes you different or better than your competitors?
Well, different than competitors, pretty much everything. I don't know about better. I also just like don't really live in a place when it comes to my company, when it was full e-commerce with clothing, or now with education, then I'm really thinking about like who my direct competitors are and what I can do to like beat them, or yada yada. Like I'm making what I want and what I'm passionate about, and I'm attracting the correct people who also care about those things. I mean, in the fashion space, there are hardly any, if not any, companies who are as inclusive as what I offer. When we had our standard e-commerce run, our size chart was extra small through 15X and beyond. And then it's and beyond, because the clothes are customizable, so they're truly for anyone. So I make clothes for people below that chart, above that chart, in between sizes on that chart, doesn't matter. And other companies are just not able to do that, not interested in doing that. And then when you tie in that the clothes are not only inclusive, but can be customized, and they are made ethically and sustainably, as far as I've seen, there's really not anybody else doing all of those things.
I would agree. What are your best-selling products?
Well, when I was releasing clothes, often, some of my best-selling items were our Juliana dress, our Meredith wrap dress, our Ashton tee, Annalise tank. I mean, the whole point of Smart Glamour, in addition to, or I shouldn't say in addition, but like talking about the sustainability aspect, is that the clothes are meant to last a long time, A, because they're made well, but B, because they are tailored to fit folks, so you don't have to futz around with them. You want to wear them because they fit you and they're comfortable, but also because we're not focusing on trends. We're not focusing on this like new shiny thing that you've never seen before that you might think is cool, wear it once, then you never wear it again. So a lot of our items were style staples, were things that you can mix and match with other garments from us or other garments from other people and like kind of rewear. So those are the items that also sold the best for us. When it comes to the classes that I sell, I would say that the best sellers currently are the class about learning how to finish your seams. So when you're sewing, in order to make your garment look professional and also have it last longer, you should be finishing the seams on the inside. So I have a course explaining how to do that. I have a little class on installing zippers that sells really well. And then I also have a few like business lecture type courses, and one focuses on fabrics, and it's a virtual tour of the garment industry in New York City, and that one sells really well as well.
Very cool. What is your future plan for yourself and the brand?
Well, the majority of the work that I do now is through the colleges that I work for. So I teach a lot at FIT. I teach for both their continuing education sector, and then I also teach for undergrad. So I'm consistently expanding upon that, proposing new courses, looking for ways to implement sustainability and inclusion into all of the classes that I teach, creating courses that specifically focus on that. I just won a grant through FIT's Diversity Collective to do continued size research and then present it to the college community and leave the data as a resource for the college community and for the students, for anyone who comes through FIT here on out so they can better improve their sizing information and their own designs for their customers. So I think like my overarching goal for the future, both through Smart Glamour and through my education spaces, is just to take what I have learned and what I've created over the past decade and be able to positively impact both my students but also their future customers by arming them with the like correct and accurate knowledge of who consumers are, what size they are, what they're looking for, and how to run companies that are kinder to both the planet and the people on it.
Definitely. So, being an entrepreneur for the last 10 years, what are some challenges that you faced and how were you able to overcome them?
Well, I mean, the biggest challenge was always that for this most of the time, I was, fully a solo entrepreneur. So I did have some part-time assistants here and there, a lot of them doing remote work, a lot of them doing kind of like social media type marketing work under my direction. But that being said, and a big reason I pivoted more towards education is being one human being who's doing the work of like 30 people is not super sustainable. So overcoming that is truly just like being aware of your boundaries and your limits and your abilities and making sure to both ask for help, but also be open to pivoting and changing your course when it is proving to be harmful for you. I think sometimes folks start businesses just because they think the concept of being an entrepreneur like sounds fun and sexy and cool, but they don't realize how much hard work it is. And if you are not ready for that work or also not open to that work looking different than you thought it might, then you might give up too easily.
Great advice. What activities have been most successful to promote the brand?
I mean, 100% using social media. When the company started in 2014, Instagram was not even that old. It hadn't been bought by Meta yet. There were no business pages, like all those things didn't exist yet. So it was a very different world of social media. But being a self-funded startup in 2014, being able to use social media to directly reach out to customers and have people share the like word of mouth for us was so important. And then also being fairly good at acquiring press for our company. So I can count the amount of times that I've paid for advertising, like on one hand over a decade. And honestly, most of the time that investment was not worth it. What is worth it is creating a company that people are truly excited about and interested to talk about, and interested to share that information with their readers, creating content, creating events and experiences unlike what other people do. And therefore, people want to talk about it. They want to cover it. So then the way that the internet works is like once you've gotten a significant amount of press on certain topics, when other people are looking to write about those topics, you come up because of SEO and people reach out to you as an expert on those topics. And then the kind of like press publication fountain just keeps kind of flowing, and you'll wake up one day and you're in some BuzzFeed article that you didn't even know was happening. So
You never know what's going to go viral, right?
right.
Your
Exactly.
podcast could go viral. Who knows?
Right.
Well, Mallory, I appreciate you coming on. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you want our listeners to know?
I guess I would just say in general to look out for me online, Mallorie Dunn, Smart Glamour. On Instagram, we are smart_glamour. If you would like to be a participant in my size research study, definitely follow me there for that information. The sign up link is not up yet, but it should be very shortly after this episode goes live. So if you're interested in being a participant in that study, reach out. You can be located anywhere because I'm happy to measure people virtually. You don't have to be in New York City like I am. You can be anywhere. And then if you are in New York City and you're interested in learning with me, I teach a number of classes at FIT that are all continuing education. So you do not need to be a registered student or a college age student or any of that to participate. You just have to be available and interested and sign up for the class.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mallorie, for coming on. Your story was amazing. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.